All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we are diving straight into a really fascinating paradox. Why is it that sometimes you put in this massive, Herculean effort and it yields absolutely zero results? To figure this out, we're unpacking a momentum blueprint inspired by something completely wild, an ancient, massive chariot festival. I'm literally so excited to uncover this with you because we're going to see how these ancient engineering principles can completely flip the script on how you tackle your heaviest goals.
So let's just start by having you think about your own frustrating experiences. Have you ever felt that deep, exhausting pain of burnout, stagnation, just grinding endlessly and going absolutely nowhere? Look, we've all been there. Our culture totally glorifies the grind, right? It tells us that if we just push harder, sweat a little more, we'll eventually break through. But actually, scratch that. As we'll see today, raw effort without the right structure, that is just a fast track to total exhaustion, not success. This concept perfectly illustrates what's going wrong. Imagine the screaming engine of a sports car. You've got the accelerator absolutely mashed to the floor. Fuel is burning up. The engine is just roaring, but the parking brake is locked tight. The car isn't going anywhere. Or think about it like the hidden tax of a leaky pipe system. You can pump massive water pressure in, but if there are dozens of tiny leaks, well, the supply just drains away before it ever reaches the end. Hard work literally cannot overcome a broken system. You just can't run faster with the brakes on.
Section 1. Moving the impossible chariot.
Now, consider the magnificent chariots of Rath Yatra. By design, these massive wooden structures are mathematically way too heavy for any single person to move. And honestly, this is the absolute perfect metaphor for our biggest life goals. Think about it. If you try to carry a massive vision entirely on your own, relying purely on solo effort, you are going to exhaust yourself before the wheels even budge an inch. Every grand dream begins as something physically too heavy to move alone. But here's the thing. These impossible weights actually do move. History teaches us that the massive Rath Yatra chariots only roll forward when thousands of devotees grip one single rope. One unified purpose, one completely synchronized movement. The architecture of the impossible requires us to stop relying just on our own backs and start relying on a unified system pulling together. So definitely keep this mental cheat sheet handy as we translate the physical mechanics of the chariot into daily momentum systems. There are 5 key pieces here. The weight, that's your massive dream. The rope represents your consistency over time. The wheels are your systems for overcoming inefficiency. The compass is your adaptability. And finally, the voice, which is your emotional control. Section 2, fixing your leaky systems. Okay, so if the wheels of our chariot are broken, raw pulling power literally means nothing. You're pouring valuable time, energy, and money into the pipeline, but repeated mistakes and disorganized processes act like massive friction, completely draining your momentum. Doing things manually that could easily be automated, that is a huge leak. The point here is that you absolutely must plug these leaks. Create a simple checklist so you stop making that one repeated mistake, or build a template for that messy process. Because your greatest asset isn't your effort, it's your time. You have to design systems that protect it.
And once you fix those chariot wheels, you've got to trust them. You know, we live in a world that is totally addicted to speed. We constantly assume that slow progress means zero progress. But beneath the surface, much like the deep, unseen roots of a massive tree, your consistent effort is invisibly building the strong foundation required to support that heavy chariot. Success is rarely about being the absolute smartest person in the room. It is almost always about being the most consistent.
Which brings us to the most dangerous part of the whole journey. We all want this nice, clean, upward angle of linear progress, right? But reality? Reality is a grueling flat line followed by a crazy, explosive upward curve. That flat line is the danger zone. Most people quit right there because they're putting in high effort and seeing zero visible progress. They pivot to new goals, chase shortcuts, and they completely miss that eventual upward explosion of compounding effort. The people who stay patient eventually look lucky to everyone else, simply because they let time compound their small, consistent actions.
Section 3. Navigating with radical honesty.
Imagine the person steering our massive chariot, or say, a stubborn ship captain navigating with an entirely outdated map. An enormous obstacle is sitting directly in their path. But instead of changing course, the navigator insists their old map just has to be right. They refuse to believe what they can clearly see with their own eyes, and they drive straight into a disaster. And man, we do this in our own lives all the time. We confuse our opinions with our core identity. We'd literally rather fail while protecting our ego than succeed by updating our map and learning something new. We do the exact same thing when things get tough. Imagine a pilot flying through a violent storm and suddenly a warning light flashes. The fuel tank is almost empty. Now, instead of actually solving the problem, the pilot just takes a piece of duct tape and slaps it over the flashing light. I know, it sounds totally absurd, but we do this constantly. We blame our environment, our genetics, maybe just bad luck. Every single comfortable excuse we make is just another piece of tape covering a critical warning light in our lives.
Look, covering the warning light makes the warning disappear, sure, but the danger, it remains entirely real. A few minutes later, that plane is still going to run out of fuel. A pleasant lie might protect your ego today, but an uncomfortable truth is literally the only thing that can change your future. Ignoring reality never, ever changes reality. So, to take back your power, you have to look into what we call the accountability mirror. Most people look in the mirror and just see a victim waiting to be rescued. But to move the impossible chariot, you have to face your reflection with radical honesty. I mean, write down your biggest weakness on a sticky note and slap it right on the mirror. Don't run from it. Accept absolute responsibility for fixing it and take one small action today to improve it. Because remember, no one is coming to save your finances, build your discipline, or pull your chariot for you.
Section 4. The contagious power of calm.
Think back to that pilot in the violent turbulence. If they get on the intercom and shout in a panic, fear spreads instantly, right? The exact same goes for the thousands of people pulling a massive chariot. If the leader panics, the rhythm breaks completely. But if the pilot speaks slowly and confidently, everyone instantly feels safer. The physical turbulence hasn't changed. The plane is still shaking, the chariot is still incredibly heavy, but the emotional atmosphere has completely shifted. Calm is incredibly contagious.
A panicked, sharp, loud voice triggers defensive emotional responses. People feel threatened. And when emotions take over, logic takes a back seat. On the flip side, the calm, steady rhythm of a late-night DJ voice projects deep confidence without creating any conflict. If you want to keep thousands of people, or honestly, even just your own team or your family, pulling the chariot's rope together in perfect sync, you have to master your voice. The calmest person in the room almost always wields the greatest influence.
Section 5. The chariot equation.
The contrast here is just incredibly stark. The default way is all about exhausted, ego-driven solo effort. It relies on screaming engines, speed addiction, protecting old maps, and taping over warning lights. I mean, it is a guaranteed recipe for burnout. But the chariot way is entirely different. It relies on shared purpose, fixing leaks for true leverage, trusting the deep roots of compounding time, radically updating your mental maps, and facing the absolute truth in the accountability mirror.
Which brings us to the ultimate formula, the chariot equation. Because none of these treats work in isolation. Shared purpose and radical honesty, multiplied by efficient systems and raised to the power of compounding time, that is what finally yields the movement of the impossible. The massive chariot of your dreams only rolls forward when the wheels, the path, the map, the voice, and the pullers are all in perfect, synchronized alignment. When you put all of this together, it always comes back to you taking ownership. You can lie to the world, you can put on a brave face and pretend everything is totally fine, but you absolutely cannot lie to the reflection staring back at you. If you want to start moving your chariot, you have to start with the truth. So I want to leave you with this final, crucial question. What warning light are you taping over today? What uncomfortable truth are you hiding from? It's time to take a hard look in the mirror, peel back that tape, face the reality of your systems, and take hold of the rope. It is time to start moving your chariot. Thank you so much for joining me.